Dear friends, dear Emmanuel, dear Kier, Friedrich, Donald, dear teams that are present here, dear journalists, today in Ukraine, in Kiev, we have a very important format, an important meeting, a very important signal. The leaders of Britain, France, Germany and Poland truly united Europe in Ukraine. This is how in unity and uniting others we do all to make a real peace closer and guarantee a long-term security. 5 of us here, as well as with the presence of our friends and partners and leaders of 30 more countries, European Union and NATO online, we've been discussing what's needed as soon as possible for peace. The main result is absolutely clear and following stands regarding the following. We've agreed that since Monday, 12th of May, a full and unconditional ceasefire must start for at least 30 days. We together demand it from Russia. We know that the United States support us in this. The unconditional ceasefire means no conditions. An attempt to put any conditions is signaling intention to drag out the war and undermine diplomacy. The ceasefire must be comprehensive in the air, at sea, and on land. To ensure the monitoring of ceasefire is absolutely possible. This is truly feasible in coordination with the United States of America. Ceasefire should last 30 days to give diplomacy a real chance. During this time, the work will be concentrated on defining security, political and humanitarian basis for peace. We welcome that the demand to ceasefire and transfer to the substantial diplomacy is supported not only by Europe, but also by the United States, who suggested it, who were the first to suggest it. By the way, during the meeting in Saudi Arabia, we've agreed that a clear priority is to strengthen the defensive forces of Ukraine as the main guarantee of sovereignty and security for Ukraine. The key element of security guarantees must be a contingent of support. Shall Russia refuse from full and unconditional ceasefire, sanctions must be used. Sanctions must be strengthened against its energy sector and banking system. There is a preparation ongoing of the 17th sanctions package of the EU, and it will be well coordinated with the UK, Norway, and the US sanctions. We welcome today's signal of Canada regarding strengthening sanctions on their end. We've also agreed to continue work on efficient usage of frozen Russian assets and to discuss it on the next G7 summit. We've agreed to further strengthen Ukrainian defense, in particular Ukrainian army. This includes financing the resilience of our defense and investments into producing weapons in Ukraine, in joint projects and in European countries. I'd like to particularly mention that we are working on various levels with the United States of America, and Ukraine has very productive dialogue with President Trump and the connection with the team, and we are grateful for that, and we thank the teams of the leaders and all those present here who are personally working and in constant touch with the United States of America. The partners are in permanent communication with Washington. We've just spoken together with the President Trump, and we have agreed our joint view, our further steps. A full and unconditional ceasefire is much needed. The accountability for refusal is needed. We can together lay the foundation for peace, and I thank everybody who supports the dignified end to this war. Once again, I thank President Macron, thank you, Kier, thank you, Friedrich, thank you, Donald, and all our partners who were together with us online today. Glory to Ukraine.
Заява президента Французької Республіки Еммануеля Макрона.
Statement by the President of France, Emmanuel Macron.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dear Volodymyr, for hosting us. I can tell that you're hosting us Together with the Chancellor, the Prime Minister and myself, we are very pleased to stand by you and to stand by the Ukrainian people today, because Ukraine is fighting for its sovereignty, its independence, but today Ukraine is the beating heart of Europe, Europe that believes in freedom and peace. On the 8th of May, we celebrated together the end of the Second World War, the victory, and indeed Europe celebrated the 18th anniversary, and over the past few months we commemorated, and you attended the celebrations of D-Day, the landings in Normandy, and the values that enabled us to get together. And we stand here today in Kiev because this is where the freedom and the security of Europe are at stake. And the camp of peace is today here, whereas the camp of war is in Moscow. About 10 years ago, Moscow that decided to invade Crimea, and 3 years ago to attack Ukraine. So the future of our principles, but as well of our collective security, is at stake. The future of the European defense and the principles on which our continent and more generally the international order is based. This is the reason why we decided to support Ukraine in its war of resistance. We stand united to obtain a robust and sustainable, durable peace, and such is the purpose of the initiatives that we've been taking together over the past few months. Like the President said, over the past few weeks, we've been working on what is now a major step. The United States of America proposed a ceasefire. We wanted to add to it some work towards robust and sustainable peace with the reassurance force, negotiations during the ceasefire. An unconditional ceasefire was agreed for 30 days in Jeddah, agreed by President Zelenski. And 2 days ago, President Trump reiterated his willingness to enforce an unconditional 30-day ceasefire. I quote his words. Now, together with some 20 countries, member of the Coalition of the Willing, we decided to support a ceasefire as from Monday without any precondition for this ceasefire, neither on the Ukrainian nor on the Russian side. It is meant to last for 30 days at sea, on land and in the air, being monitored mainly by the United States of America, and all Europeans that stand ready can contribute. And that will enable to launch immediately the work, the negotiations, to build a robust and lasting peace, talking about the sensitive infrastructure, the territory, and of course the security guarantees. In case of violations of this ceasefire, we agreed that massive sanctions would be prepared and coordinated amongst the Europeans and with the United States. We, a few minutes ago, at the end of the meeting of the Coalition of the Willing, we talked to President Trump, first of all, to report on our work, also to thank him for the initiative that he took a few months ago already, and to agree on all the relevant terms, as is the case. In addition to the ceasefire, to work on robust and lasting peace, we will continue to provide our military and financial support to Ukraine for it to resist. And most importantly, we will continue to act for Ukraine to enjoy some robust guarantees with equipment to deter any new attack, with financing and adequate equipment. We will also work on second curtain reassurance forces. We discussed this with all of the heads of state and government that joined us on the occasion of this remote conference of the Coalition of the Willing. We'll continue to work on that, and hopefully, as from Monday, that will be our concrete framework for the discussions that will involve all the stakeholders around the table. When the time comes, we will also work on reconstruction, which is, of course, of the utmost importance. In any case, by standing by you, being with you here today, Mr. President, dear Volodymyr, we're not here just to continue commemorating, but also to say, to affirm that on this 10th of May we stand fully by your side, to tell once again to the Ukrainian people that we will never abandon it, and that we will fight for peace. And I hope that peace will begin as from Monday, based on the terms that we proposed, that we support, and which today are agreed upon by the United States of America, all of the European allies, Ukraine, of course, as well as Canada, Australia, Norway, and others who are part of this coalition for the willing. It is now time for us to build this peace and a lasting peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Volodymyr. Friends, it's a real pleasure to be here in Kiev with you all, with Emmanuel, with Friedrich, and with Donald. This is Europe stepping up, showing our solidarity with Ukraine, and also showing during this week, when we mark 80th anniversary of VE Day, that we understand the lessons of history. The lesson that any veteran of Normandy, of North Africa, or any other campaign will tell you, but that Putin has not yet grasped. There's no glory in aggression and conquest. Glory comes from fighting for your country, defending your people, and winning the peace. And that is the message of this moment. Volodymyr, we stand with you to secure the just and lasting peace that Ukraine deserves. It's almost 2 months now since you agreed to an immediate 30-day ceasefire. In that time, Russia has launched some of the most deadly attacks on civilians of the entire war, including here in Kiev. Normal lives, homes, families destroyed. This is what Russia offers in place of peace, along with delays, smokescreens, like the current 72-hour ceasefire. And so all of us here, together with the US, are calling Putin out. If he's serious about peace, then he has a chance to show it now, by extending the VE Day pause into a full, unconditional 30-day ceasefire, with negotiations to follow immediately once a ceasefire is agreed. No more ifs and buts, no more conditions and delays. Putin didn't need conditions when he wanted a ceasefire to have a parade, and he doesn't need them now. Ukraine has shown the willingness to engage again and again. But again and again, Putin has refused. So we are clear. All 5 leaders here, all the leaders on the meeting we just had with the coalition of the willing, an unconditional ceasefire, rejecting Putin's conditions, and clear that if he turns his back on peace, we will respond, working with President Trump, with all our partners. We will ramp up sanctions and increase our military aid for Ukraine's defence, to pressure Russia back to the table. And that's what we've been discussing today, as well as securing Ukraine's future for the longer term, convening the latest meeting of the Coalition of the Willing, with partners joining virtually from around Europe and across the world, lining up to support Ukraine's future strength and security, discussing operational plans and making concrete commitments of support across land, air and sea. We want to help Ukraine look to the future with confidence, so we're working to boost Ukraine's economy, and as a vital step, I'm pleased that UK experts have been on the ground leading work to support the resumption of flights into Ukraine once a ceasefire is achieved. It will take time, but this will be a huge moment in reconnecting Ukraine's economy, boosting investor confidence, and helping to reunite families separated by this war. Ukraine secure and thriving. That is what we all want to see. With our 100-year partnership, the critical minerals deal with the US, and our coalition of the willing, we are building the framework for peace in Ukraine, to support a better future for the Ukrainian people, and to pledge once again, in all our interests, and on this anniversary, that aggression will never prevail on our continent. Thank you.
Заява федерального канцлера Німеччини Фрідріха Мерца.
Statement by Federal Chancellor of Germany, Friedrich Merz.
President Zelenski, lieber Volodymyr, liebe Kollegen, Emmanuel Macron.
Volodymyr, colleagues, Emmanuel Macron, Keir Starmer, Donald Tusk, ladies and gentlemen. This week that has now come to an end, we met at different places in the world. We commemorated the end of the Second World War in different places, a war that was started by Germany, my country, only a few years after the end of the Second World War, and not least, thanks to the United States of America, France, the UK, and many others, was given the opportunity to come back to the circle of civilized nations. This wonderful opportunity Germany was given is an obligation to us today, an obligation to stand up for peace across the globe, for freedom across the globe, and serve peace worldwide. I personally, at the end of this week, am also very moved that as Federal Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany, I am allowed to stand here with you in this circle and together with the Polish Prime Minister, the British Prime Minister, and the French President, and the Polish Prime Minister, to stand with our friend and partner, Volodymyr Zelenski, President of Ukraine, and not only express our full solidarity and support, but also in this very difficult situation of a war that has been going on for more than 3 years, on an almost historic day, to say we stand firmly by the side of Ukraine, and we will continue to do so. We know about the fate of your people. We know that every day on Ukrainian soil, people are dying. Innocent civilians, women, children, elderly people, but also soldiers. Soldiers on both sides. Not only Ukrainian soldiers, also Russian soldiers. This is why I would like to tell you that with our presence here today, we are sending out a very strong message of our determination to do everything we can to end this war as soon as possible, and do everything we can, the 5 of us who are standing here, 4 partners of Ukraine, every contribution we can make and we have to make. This war has been waged by Russia. It has not been provoked. It has not been launched by NATO or the European Union or democracy. This war exclusively was caused by Russia. It is an illegal war of aggression. Today, Germany, France, Poland, and the United Kingdom and Ukraine met, and we have prepared that meeting well. We all spoke to the American president before our meeting, and immediately after our meeting today, we informed him personally. We are grateful to the American president that he fully supports our initiative, he shares our initiative, and he is engaged in this initiative with us. We are all working towards Russia to finally agree to a longer ceasefire instead of coming up with new preconditions again and again. With President Zelensky, we discussed today what the next steps can look like towards the war, the path towards real peace. The next step needs to go beyond the ceasefire of this weekend, a 30-day ceasefire starting on Monday next week, without conditions, that is fully respected by Russia, without conditions. And it needs to be clear, if Russia denies this ceasefire, that would be the basis for negotiations that could start immediately, we will continue to defend Ukraine and we will continue to ratchet up pressure on Russia. This, too, is part of this day. Almost all members of the European Union and a big coalition of the willing across the globe is determined to impose these sanctions if our initiative of this weekend were to fail. This initiative is an initiative we take because of our common responsibility, our common history, and I would like to reiterate it once again. It's not only an honor, it is an obligation for Germany and the new federal government, as it was perceived by the former government also. It is a privilege to be here to support every initiative to make sure that this war in Europe, it is taking place in Europe, that this war in Europe ends as soon as possible. We have an opportunity to do that, and if that war ends, we, together with Ukraine, with NATO, with the European Union, will make sure this peace lasts so that Ukraine can prosper in freedom, in security, and in a democracy. Thank you very much.
Statement by Prime Minister of the Republic of Poland, Donald Tusk. For me, as the Polish Prime Minister, dear friend, this opportunity of having a meeting here in Kiev, 80 years after the end of the Second World War, is of extreme great importance. Poland, since the first hours of Russia's aggression against Ukraine, has been supporting the Ukrainian people, the Ukrainian nation, President Zelensky, with everything it has. We are the nations that have a constant memory of huge victims that we had sustained during the time of the Second World War. We also remember that the victory over the fascist Germany did not bring freedom neither to the Poles nor the Ukrainians. We were waiting for true independence and freedom for many years. We are ready to fight for the freedom and independence. Ukraine today is paying the highest price, the blood price, fighting for the same values of independence and freedom. But Ukraine is not alone today. And this is an exceptional symbolism, what has happened in these 2 days. Yesterday, they had the parade of shame organized by the aggressor in Moscow. And brutal words full of aggression and hatred were said there. A day later, there's a meeting in Kiev. The meeting of us four with President Zelensky. The meeting that results in the call for peace, for an immediate, since coming Monday, unconditional ceasefire. The meeting that takes place in Kiev, that has been bombarded ruined, attacked by the aggressor. It is from here where the words about the need to stop firing, to launch negotiations as soon as possible, to reach a long and lasting and just peace come from. These are the words that the whole free world is taking close to its heart. This is the day that has not just a symbolic value. This is the day when a very important event took place. The idea of ceasefire and immediate negotiations has been a joint one, voiced by the President of the United States of America, the President of Ukraine, German, UK, and Polish leaders present here, all done to support Ukraine in its fight for freedom and independence. It is the first time that since long the whole free world has been united around the decision we adopted. The whole world, starting in New Zealand, ending in Canada, Iceland, the US, Norway, the whole of Europe, we've all have been speaking with one voice. And this isn't a naive voice. We fully understand that we are facing a true test. Same can be said of Russia and its Putin. We will be waiting for Russia's reaction. What we are surely of is that the proposal that we coined together by the US, Europe, Canada, Ukraine, regarding the ceasefire, regarding the truth, is a serious one. If Russia refuses this proposal, no one will have any more doubts as to who stands for peace and who stands for war. President Zelensky and Ukraine's readiness to launch negotiations is truly a no small gesture. We do not know whether the aggressor will value that, but we all will remember it. We will all know who initiated this true initiative of peace in these remarkable days. Mr. President, I would really like to see that since this day we remain as united as we are today. The commitment, the engagement of all the Western nations, of all the nations for whom freedom is of supreme value, the engagement in this strive for just and lasting peace. This is what is important. All the participants in the meeting have confirmed that. It has also been confirmed by President Trump during the phone call. This proposal of an unconditional ceasefire, also to launch immediate negotiations afterwards, if it is left without reaction, if it's about double play, it will result in the ratcheted up sanctions and the world further uniting over and around Ukraine. You think that no one should take our proposal lightly, and if they do it, well, we are cautious optimists today, but thanks to your work and your determination, we have strong grounds to be like that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, dear journalists. Now it's time for questions. Those who have the mics, please stand up so that we can see us. Please, Polsat Poland. If Russia does not agree to a ceasefire, how fast the members of the coalition can can adopt new sanctions packages, and what sanctions could it be? Because the previous sanctions packages, they didn't prevent and stop the Russian aggression. So is there a potential for the sanctions that would make Russia change the course? And can there be sanctions against the states who are efficiently helping Russia to bypass the existing sanctions?
Your question goes to?
Do premiera Donalda Tuska, ale także do pozostałych
This was the question to Prime Minister of Poland, Donald Tusk, and the other leaders. We must state these things clear today. That is a very important endeavor. That is an argument in our discussions on the topic of the sanctions and the other ways to counter Russian aggression, because the sanctions are working. If it weren't for sanctions, the situation would be incomparably worse. The Russia is actively waiting for the sanctions to be lifted, but Ukraine is defending thanks to the courage of its warriors. But we also know that the aid that is that is incoming to Ukraine from the United States, as well as the policy of sanctions, they have given the results, and they made the Russia's victory in the war impossible. Which is why I reject this logic that and the way of thinking that the sanctions didn't do anything. The sanctions appear to be the key thing in limiting Russia's capabilities. The situation in Russia is more severe than Putin's propagandists, and he himself demonstrated, which means that keeping the sanctions in place and strengthening them where possible will give the results, but the sanctions policy requires patience and unity and comprehensiveness among the states who support Ukraine. We've discussed before with the US about the various sorts of sanctions. Maybe the colleagues will mention it more in depth, but for us the most important thing is that the decision on the readiness to make the sanctions tougher was a United States of all the states, the United States of America, the members of the Coalition of the Willing, as well as all those present here. I devote great attention to this statement. I've not seen such unity for quite some time, and that means that the sanctions cost a lot. And the sanctions cost a lot for us, and that is not an easy decision. But the fact that we have approved such a decision and publicly announced it means that this is no joke. If Russia rejects this proposal, they will be met with new wave of sanctions. Okay, the next question, please, by DPA here in the second row. Thank you so much, Michael Fischer. As the
DPA, German press agency, the Federal Chancellor. Now it's working, I'm sorry. Michael Fischer, German press agency. President Zelensky. Germany has a new federal chancellor. Friedrich Merz traveled to Ukraine only 4 days after taking office. What do you expect from the new federal government? Do you expect it to deliver the cruise missiles Taurus that you've asked for so long? Do you hope for Germany regarding the invitation of Ukraine to join NATO? Do you expect Germany to be more open to such an invitation? And these are my main question. And a question to the Chancellor. Mr. Chancellor, what will you do differently from your predecessor in terms of policy regarding Ukraine? When you were here last time in December, you were leader of the opposition. You clearly said you might deliver Taurus, now you're federal chancellor. Do you think differently about this now? And would you be willing, in case of a ceasefire, to send troops on the ground to Ukraine?
Friedrich, you want?
No, please, go ahead. No, you first.
Okay. Thank you.
You are the host.
Thank you so much.
First and foremost, I'd like to express my gratitude personally to Friedrich, that it's been really 4 days since he's been in office, and he found the opportunity to support Ukraine together with the friendly countries to come here. This is a serious signal, and I think we all feel that. What else can be said here? I think that with his visit, he commanded it all, that Germany will be with Ukraine as long as it takes, even after the war, because we count very much on German specialists and German business that will play an active part in Ukraine's recovery. We've started to discuss these things with the Chancellor, with Friedrich, as I expressed my gratitude that he came here. We've also spoken on the phone about also our strengthening of our defenses. You know that we need air defense. Germany was very helpful with air defense systems Patriot and with IRIS-T systems. I wouldn't want to speak publicly now about the quantity of aid of these systems, but we count very much on them. We know the time frames, and it's important for us. Thank you.
Mr. Fischer, I stand in a certain continuity with the former federal government. Over the last 3.5 years, we've taken many decisions together. We also, at the beginning of the war, shortly after the beginning in April 2022, we've jointly suggested a motion to the German Bundestag. I was one of the first politicians in Germany to travel to Ukraine on the 1st and 2nd of May 2022, and we've always said that we want to support Ukraine, that we have to support Ukraine, not only because it's in Ukraine's interest, but also because it is in our common European interest. This war puts at risk not only the territorial integrity of Ukraine. This war attempts to destroy the entire political order of Europe. This is why we stand by Ukraine's side. The scope of what we do is something that we will, in the future, discuss even more closely with our partners and the coalition of the willing. And the fact that I'm here today should illustrate to all of you that this format, E3, and wherever possible, together with Poland, I will do everything I can to make sure that we assume a leadership role as these 4 countries. The measures we will take together to end this war and the decisions we will take together in order to secure a possible peace in Ukraine is not a matter or a topic for public discussion. It will be discussed internally in this format together with the United States of America. I think it is of the highest importance that the United States of America remain engaged, remain committed, and what kind of reassurance in terms of security policy we could give to Ukraine that was able to sign a peace treaty. These are decisions that will be taken when the time is ready and that we will take together once the time has come.
Наступне запитання, будь ласка, ITV, Велика Британія, перший ряд.
ITV, United Kingdom, the first row.